And welcome to a VSA Capital video blog with the CEO of Panthera Resources, Mark Bolton. Mark, how are you?
Very well, Andrew, and yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Now, I'm obviously up in London. You're down in Perth.
I am.
But there's been,
And
obviously, we recorded a video blog about 2 months ago, and since then we've actually also raised you some money. But things are moving on
indeed.
pretty rapidly, actually, aren't they? So let's. I know there's at least three subjects we need to talk about here, but let's move on to the first, which is the other day you issued the Notice of Arbitration, which is quite an important notice, actually. Do you want to just quickly talk us through what you announced?
Sure. We issued a notice of dispute early in the year. That document advises the government of India that there's an issue and that the parties should engage with a view to potentially finding a resolution before there's formal legal proceedings. Those formal legal proceedings are in the form of essentially the commencement of those proceedings. The notice of arbitration is that step, and that's the document that we submitted to the government of India on Friday.
Yeah, and I mean, in your RNS, you talked about the sort of valuations that could be there. You obviously your actual claim amount comes out later in the year, probably towards the end of the year. But you did talk about various things that have give you indicators of what that value could be, and we're talking very large sums. I mean, we're talking $1 billion potentially. Do you want to just, without saying anything you can't, elaborate a little bit more on that, Mark?
Look, we have the option, the capacity, ability. In fact, I think it's recommended that you include a number as early as possible. So we could, for example, have included a number in the notice of dispute and the notice of arbitration. We elected not to do that because we wish that number to be the right number. Whatever that number is, we did not want a number that was unreliable. We recognize that our shareholders are seeking to understand the commercial value of that claim. So what we've done is point shareholders to whatever information that we think might be relevant in helping them form their own view on value. And those two documents, amongst many other sources to imply value, are the recent auction and quotes by government officials in India. Both of those numbers, both of those indicators, amongst others, point to, you're right, a very large number.
Yeah, and it's maybe worth just quickly reiterating or reminding anybody watching this that, of course, you do have LCM, Litigation Capital Management, effectively covering all your costs here. So if you want to just quickly update on that.
Well, absolutely. We maintain that relationship. They are closely involved and are supporting our claim. It is our claim, not LCM's, but we appreciate their not only financial support, but also their commercial and legal expertise. So it's nice having that their involvement, both having our back financially, but also sitting on our shoulder as the wise L. So yeah, we it allows companies like ours, who are essentially the small guy getting crushed, to get a fair outcome, whatever that outcome might be. We just need a fair seat at the table, and LCM's balance sheet gives us that fair seat at the table.
Yeah, look, it's not just the balance sheet. They also have an incredibly good track record of a successful outcome. You use the word outcome there. I think it's quite important, that, isn't it? Because,
Indeed, indeed.
clearly, yeah, go on.
Look, the precise numbers are on their website, but out of circa 250, 260 odd cases they have funded, I think their losses are 11 or thereabouts. So their track record is 90x 95, whatever the math is, odd percent. So we take comfort from their involvement in the case because, like I said, they are the wise owl here, and it's certainly having their track record behind us is a great assistance, great confidence.
And I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned the 260 cases. So, I mean, this has become a sort of an asset class in its own right, hasn't it? This sort of litigation claim, and you have to understand how it all works and the time it takes. It is a very long process as well, isn't it? But it is an asset
It
class,
is.
right?
It is. It's a small and emerging asset class. It's an unusual one because most asset classes uh, are intertwined with each other in the sense they are a sector. Whereas this is not really a sector, it's a class, as you correctly pointed out, because the value of your claim, obviously the claim value and the time value of money and the risk attached to that claim, plus if you're a listed company, the dilution that shareholders might experience between now and then, to effectively value that that optionality in today's value of money, and that principle, that financial instrument effectively that is imputed in our shares has become quite popular and growing so. So the poster child for this is obviously GreenX. We'd love to emulate their track record. Even if we achieved a fraction of that, their track record, I'd be over the moon. A more recent example, actually, which is Indiana. Indiana published their outcome, I think it was late last week, where they had a claim for circa 130 million US dollars. And they achieved a settlement with the government of Tanzania of $90 million. So it's another box tick that shareholders can avail themselves to this class. Obviously, the GreenX claim is substantial. It's not quite an order of magnitude, but approaching an order of magnitude of Indiana Resources. But Indiana Resources is another tick that this asset class has it has merit.
Well, and we like unusual because that's often where there is hidden value, and shareholders can get a great benefit from. Now, also, it's worth pointing out, you've actually sort of your reward for doing this is going to come very much in the form of options. You announced this morning, this is Tuesday, your option package, which I think correct me if I'm slightly wrong, but it averages out at about 15p, which is a 100% premium to today's price. So you obviously in your own mind think that actually this is going to go significantly up. Otherwise, you don't really get the reward that you maybe would want.
Look, to me, I wasn't looking for an incremental increase to my pay packet, so to speak. To me, it was deliver a significant value accretive outcome for our shareholders. So it was about making sure I was well leveraged to an outcome. The 15p, in my opinion, is not the value of where I think we are or should be, but it is it's a line in the sand where Mark does well and shareholders would have done very well at that point. But as we run the numbers, so a 15p implies on circa 200 odd million shares on issue, 15p is 30 million pounds. It's a very small number.
You'd still be trading on cents
what
in the
we're
dollar.
dealing with book here.
Yeah, still cents
pennies in the dollar. Yeah, cents in the dollar, pennies in the pound. Yeah.
And actually, that's an average, isn't it? Because it's actually steps. I've forgotten what it was now, but because I've just literally
the ranges. There's a few at 8, but really the prices range from 12 to 20. And the way it's been structured is that they are there to credit to my remuneration committee who put forward the proposal. They only vest over the period of the litigation, so it is an ensuring that I remain sticky to the matter. But if I am able to settle earlier, they will vest now. So I'm incentive to hang around and make sure we implement the plan. But if we implement it faster, then we all benefit.
No, I think all shareholders should see it as very positive, actually, Mark. So
thank you.
It's a positive step and shows your exactly where the direction of travel, shall we say. Now, let's also just one other thing worth talking about is you've obviously recently spent a bit of money. You have some assets in West Africa. You're spending a little bit of money there. But I think it's worth stressing, because I know I've seen on whatever it's called, Twitter or X nowadays, some people calling you a West African gold company. You're not really. This is a litigation company, but you have got
No.
these assets. Correct. I think it's worth just updating people. You're spending a bit of money really in order to then go and park the assets elsewhere, aren't you?
Look, we needed to, with mineral assets, wherever they are in the world, is unless you make progress, then, in other words, unless you do some activity on them, they become worthless. So whilst spending money on West Africa is not our priority, and it is dilutive to shareholders because the value sits in the litigation. However, we do need to keep these assets in good standing, and that's what we have done. That said, the small amount we are spending on them were particularly the Beto drilling, in my opinion, will be very value accretive. I'm excited about the drilling, and I think it will deliver a nice outcome for shareholders. But the purpose of West Africa, really, not the purpose, the goal, the objective with our West African asset is to rip them out of the company and stop the dilution bleed. I have been talking about it for some weeks now, and from a shareholder's perspective, we really need to get on with action, not just words.
Yeah, well, I think that's, I mean, actually on that point, let's just look forward a little bit. Here we are at the end of July. How do you see the sort of news flow, should we just say, for the next 6 to 12 months panning out? The big one, obviously, will be the value, which comes at the end of the year. But what other sort of news flow do you see is coming out?
Sure. Look, in the short term, we can see a couple of announcements on Beto and Colada just confirming the end of drilling. I would expect that will be in the next, call it 2 weeks, give or take a week. We should start to see drill results trickle out probably on Beto at the end of August, maybe early September. And we'll see those drill results trickle out all the way through well into September, potentially even early October. So there is a healthy news flow on the West African front in train. And I implore shareholders to watch out for those announcements, particularly Beto, which is drilling a high priority target. In terms of the case, there's a formal process now, and we can look forward to announcing progress on the formulation or the formation of the tribunal panel. That's circa at least 2 months. It might drag out a little bit longer. So you can expect an announcement on that very late September, most likely October. Okay. That panel will then hold its first hearing and put together essentially a scheduling process outcomes, or decisions, and that'll set the timetable for the case. The really next major milestone is the statement of claim. After that, we're into the documents going backwards and forwards over the next 18 months before we get a formal hearing and then ultimately an award.
It becomes a game of tennis.
Indeed.
But of course, there's always the possibility that something could, in parallel, give us an alternative exit route with value for shareholders.
Look, we talk to our shareholders, we engage with them, we know and understand what their value drivers are. At the end of the day, we're their servants. This isn't an emotive situation. There's no, as I've said previously, there's no right or wrong here. It's getting an acceptable outcome for the company, and to that extent, getting India out of a difficult position they find themselves. We will engage in good faith, and I think it's in India's best interest to do the same.
Mark, I think that's a really good update. So we'll call it a day there. But I think we'll obviously be talking a lot more in the future. Again, if anybody watching this wants more information, please do get in touch either with ourselves at VSA or with Mark directly.
Please do.
It's a fascinating situation. As you say, it's becoming an asset class in its own right. The rewards are very, very high. There is clearly a risk to it. But it's like a zero coupon bond, and you probably don't wait for the end outcome. If you make 25 times your money, take most of your money off the table and be very, very happy.
what I'm going to say, it's a very nice multiple. I'm not sure I can respond.
No, no need to respond. I'm allowed to say it. I'm an investment banker. Mark, thanks a lot. That's really good. We'll wrap this up here, but that's a really useful update. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.